So the Niners defense is number one in the league. Points, yards, it's elite. But it really hasn't been tested the way it's going to be tested when they face the Chiefs and Bucks and certain teams left coming up on the schedule. So what do you think is the number one question that's still unanswered about this defense that looks so impenetrable right now?
How good they truly are against the run at the point.
Yep.
That's
That's it.
that's my
That's it.
concern because
Yeah.
Hufanga has been so good
Yeah.
as a box safety in the cover three. He's seeing it. He knows his formations. He's in his playbook. He knows what's coming, and when he sees it, he's not hesitating. But he's so good that we don't know if Givens and Ridgeway and Kinlaw and Armstead, if these guys can really stand up to a big physical power back running it up the gut. Denver committed to 33 runs because they believe that there was some weakness there. And I think that's an indication. Other teams will tell you about your team and your weaknesses and strengths by how they attack you. And I thought that game was an indication that Denver felt like if you go to the run between the tackles and stick with it, it will benefit you by the fourth quarter. So I'm a little concerned about just without DJ, just how good's Armstead, how good's Kinlaw, how good's Givens, how good's the Ridgeway, how good is the Niner interior actually against a big physical running team that's going to commit to it.
Yeah, I think it may not be that it's a weakness, but the rest of the Niners defense is so strong, you have to attack something. And it seems like passing's tough against the Niners defense because the pass rush is so good and the secondary is so good. And then running sideways against the Niners defense doesn't seem to work out good. It seems like the Niners defense is faster than your offense, and that Dre Greenlaw is going to beat you to the edge every time. If you have any prayer against the Niners, you got to go straight ahead against them, right up the middle. And it seems like they haven't really faced a team that could do it really well yet. But look at Kansas City. They're not an overwhelming running team, but they can run the ball effectively. They have two running backs this year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco, who are averaging about 5 yards a carry. So they can at least test the Niners that way while throwing the ball all around the field. That's going to be a really interesting test for the Niners defense. If they're all-time great, they'll show it in that game.
Yeah. No, I mean, and if Hufanga keeps making plays against the run and he attacks the mesh point like, he's Troy Polamalu in his prime, then maybe Kinlaw and Armstead don't need to be as good as DJ in the middle. Maybe they can get away with it. I'll tell you the one part about the Niners that makes me go, wow, is that obviously Bosa is super special. We all know that. Everybody knows that. But it's the other guys that are just playing with their hair on fire. Ebukam. I've never seen Ebukam play this hard. Charles Omenihu. Omenahu's lighter, faster, and the motor's crazy. Drake Jackson is such a fun kid to watch. And then the guy who plays the hardest of any 49er that I can tell is Kerry Hyder. My God. Kerry Hyder plays every football game like it's Super Bowl Sunday, and if he loses, he's going to be killed. I mean, it's just like Kerry Hyder is a damn good football player, and his motor is crazy revs so high. So to me, that's the thing. They got a lot of talent, but they got 5 guys that aren't named Bosa who can come off the edge, who all play with this motor that's nonstop. That's scary.
Absolutely. And like Bosa has 6 sacks through 4 games. He could break records this year, but Ebukam has 3 sacks through 4 games. He's quietly having a great year, and I think it's cool the way the Niners are getting these sacks. It's not just guys going straight ahead winning one-on-one. It's a lot of very sophisticated games and stunts.
Yeah.
Like, did D'Amico sit down with Vic Fangio this offseason? This feels very Fangio-esque. Not to take anything away from D'Amico, but this is exactly the kind of stuff Fangio was doing 10 years ago, and I know he was either thinking about being a consultant or he was coming out to practices. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing that, so okay, if you said Niner defense, give me the brief overview. Well, Bosa and Armstead are difference makers up front. Warner's a difference maker. And then you'd say, oh, okay, Jimmy Ward's kind of a difference maker. And now you look at it and you're like, wait a second. Charvarius Ward is a difference maker. Hafanga makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So you got like 3 difference makers in your
Mosley's no slouch. You know
Mosley's
what I mean?
no slouch, playing the best ball of his career. Drake Greenlaw right now is on fire.
Samson, yes, he is. Fire. Yes, he is. Dre Greenlaw's on fire. Samson Ebukama's on fire. Like, this defense is crazy. Again, it hasn't really been tested the way it will, but so far, so good. Damn.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. They got like headliner difference makers, but then they got guys behind them at all 3 levels of the D. This Niner team, the more I watch them, Grant reminds me of the 2000 Ravens, who it's interesting. Brian Billick was thought of as a great offensive coach, like Kyle, but they had a terrible offense that year with a quarterback that made a lot of mistakes in Dilfer. That's Garoppolo. And then they had this kick-ass defense that was awesome, like at every spot. And that's the Niners right now on defense. So to me, they're giving me a 2000 Ravens vibe. And that to me also should say, hey, Kyle, let's get this offensive thing going. Yeah. Because if you can get any momentum going offensively, you're probably going to wind up in the conference championship game again.
The problem with the 2000 Ravens, that's a great comparison. I see it. But the thing is, that was 20 years ago. Rules were different. And now, like, they beat Kerry Collins in the Super Bowl, you know? Like, now if the Niners make it to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat probably Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, and all the rules are on their side. It's not even fair anymore. It's not like 20 years ago. You can't touch them. You can't look at – if you look at them out of the side of your eye, it's a 15-yard – if you Buffalo eye them, it's a 15-yard penalty. Nah. I mean, the offense is going to have to eventually come around and score more than 16 points. They can't have Trent Dilfer. I don't think the equivalent of Trent Dilfer could win a Super Bowl in 2022.
I agree.
But Jimmy might be better than Trent. You know? Can you be Brad Johnson?
Kyle might
Alex
be
Smith?
Better than Billick.
There you go. I think he is.
But that is kind of an interesting one because Billick was the Vikings coach when they had Moss and they had that team that scored ridiculous points. But then he also was the coach of a team that won the Super Bowl that had one of the worst offenses we've ever seen.
Yeah, they had Jamal Lewis. He was,
and they had Shannon Sharp, didn't they?
Oh, they might have. If this team had Jamal Lewis, they would win the Super Bowl. But they don't. Their running backs get hurt. Stop using Jeff Wilson like he's Jamal Lewis. We have to fly a banner over.
Jeff Wilson is a great guy to interview, by the way. I talked to him last week, and I just like this guy's a tough guy, man.